Okay, so if I turn off all the lights and make a video at nighttime, it takes about 10 minutes to download. If I make it during the day and in color, it takes about 2 hours to download, and that's quite a long time for only 12 minutes of video. On Thursday, I got court, so I got to go all the way to Rawlins, Wyoming to get a computer. Now, that court date is complete BS. I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely committed the crime. But what's BS about it is everything that was stolen. And also the situation surrounding that. See, here's the thing. The officers in that situation did wrong things, and so did the hospital. And although those weren't my decisions, they still happened. Now, there's a computer there that I recorded those officers on. And they did some pretty illegal shit when they arrested me. But that's not the important part. The important part is the evidence on that computer. As soon as I get that computer, I'm going to be posting up 6 conversations between myself and Bobby Forrest, as well as a conversation between myself and Jamie Curtis. And then you guys will realize how much I'm not bullshitting about this. The fact is, if you're going to go playing head games with people, yeah, I don't care what the law is anymore. If the law is unjust, it is my duty to break it. If it's okay for other people to do it to me, but it's not okay for me to do it back, then that law is unjust, because it doesn't apply to all of us. It only applies to me, and therefore it is my duty as an American to break that law. There are certain laws that I'm not willing to break. There are certain things that people did to me that I'm not willing to do back. And that's just a fact. However, that's not the important part. The important part is that they took away evidence of child abuse. Did they take it into police evidence? No, they let a tow truck company take it. And instead of entering that vehicle in as evidence, or anything in it as evidence, they just allowed the tow truck driver to take it, after telling me they weren't going to arrest me. Then they arrested me and took it. Now, they arrested me over a situation in Scotts Bluff that I never should have been in. That's the reason I was arrested. That situation in Scotts Bluff, I pled guilty to, because I did legitimately break those computers. Now, I keep hearing this argument from a lot of women that they should have the right to choose what to do with their bodies. The fact is, if I'm trying to get a police officer to take a report, I don't need drugs put into me. I don't need to be locked up and have pens and pencils and paper taken away from me so that I can't write down a police report and write down the situation. What I need is a police officer there to do their job. Now, every time that I tried to turn in police officers, they put me on suicide watch or locked me up. And that was the situation that happened in Scotts Bluff. The situation that happened in Rawlins was very similar. Anyway, the situation in Rawlins, when they stole my computer and locked me up, well, That's actually an okay thing to do. I did legitimately break the law. But the fact is, under the circumstances, I didn't see any other options. None. This is a situation where 2 children are being smacked around. And me, with the tag mentally ill on me, and with it on my arrest record, assault against a police officer. By the way, that was Officer Waylon Lolatai down in Boulder who assaulted me. And that's why the charges were dropped. Those charges were dropped for a reason. Because there was no way in hell, with their body cameras and the footage in the hospital, that they would have ever gotten a conviction. Ever. However, due to the fact that they dropped the charges, and due to the fact that Amanda Balehash made no effort to get those body cameras, I don't have access to those. I have to find a civil lawyer in order to get those. By the way, did I say fuck the police? Anyway, when I was in Rawlins, Wyoming, I threw a coffee cup at the floor. And it did hit the floor. And it splattered all over the place. But that's not what they charged me for. They charged me for breaking something I didn't break. Now, it's understandable. The lady who did break it, she's an alcoholic and she didn't want to get in trouble. Also, she was already drunk by that time of the morning. She went to work drunk. Now, that's not any of the important stuff there. That is just bullshit that was leading up to it. The important part is that when I got my day in court, I wanted to plead guilty, but they were trying to send my computer to Colorado to remove all of the evidence on there of the police in Rawlins' wrongdoing, as well as the police in Colorado's wrongdoing, and records of a great many people and the things that they had to say. See, that computer, unlike the one that I have now, the one I have now is Windows 7. The one that they have is Windows 10. It can play a lot of my video games, which the one that I have now can literally only play Minecraft. And I can't really stand Minecraft. I got that to make Miss Peaches and Mr. Raja happy. They said that if I got Minecraft, I could play with them and we'd have a lot of fun. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is, that Windows 10 computer, I had 2 computers with Windows 10 on them. One of them was stolen in Washington State, and that's the one that I recorded most of this stuff on. The other one is the one that the Rawlins police took. However, because it's Windows 10, the things that I recorded on the computer that was stolen in Washington State by some homeless people, I can still get those videos off of the computer in Rawlins, Wyoming. By the way, I learned that on accident. So Bobby Forrest, 6 of our conversations from when we first started speaking that verify the things that I said about Natalie and her family, especially her father. Yeah, there's 6 conversations with him that prove that. There's also a conversation with Jamie Curtis that proves that. Not the situation with Natalie, but at least part of it. And there's also a full record of a lot of people that I spoke with, a lot of people that I harassed, and a lot of people that harassed me. And you know what it shows? It shows that all the people that I harassed me first. Every one of them. Every single one. So you know what? I don't mind breaking the law to harass people who the law didn't care to do anything about. The law didn't care to look at the situation. That's what slander does. The hell that I've gone through for speaking out, you can go back through my videos. I have conversations recorded with Aaron Cockerham that prove I was telling the truth. I have conversations with Katie Cahill that prove I was telling the truth. I have conversations with Miss Peaches, aka Kayla Trujillo, that prove I was telling the truth. I have conversations with Tabitha Cook that show I was telling the truth. I have conversations with Karamia that show I was telling the truth, and they're all on this YouTube. And I'm going to tell you something about most of these people. Most of these people are good people. They just didn't understand because they didn't take the time. Most of these people did fucked up shit because they didn't understand and didn't try. They were too busy administering advice. I read a post today that said, give your best advice in 4 words or less. My 4 words were, listen before giving advice. And that's the thing that nearly every single one of these people had an issue with. They didn't have any problems giving advice, they had problems listening. Now, the terrible thing is that I didn't find out about this until last week. However, I've been trying to get a hold of my public pretender, David McCarthy, for over 2 months. He finally called me back today. Now, I got a friend who's going to be driving all the way up here from Colorado. He's going to be driving here to Chapel, Nebraska. He's going to be bringing with him a young woman who I helped to find years ago. And then he's going to drive me to Rawlins, Wyoming. And I'm going to be able to get that computer. And I'm going to be able to show that evidence. That computer never should have been taken from me. That computer never should have been taken. But those officers knew that they had done wrong, and they needed to hide that. They realized that they had done wrong as soon as they realized that I was recording them. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that went on up there. And because I don't have the money to run back and forth between here and Rawlins, because it's 252 miles from Chapel, Nebraska to Rawlins, Wyoming. Because of that, I literally cannot afford to travel back and forth between here and there, to go to court dates, to go after those police officers, and to go after that hospital. However, I am going to post up all of the evidence. Now, I got lucky because there's a lady who is going to pay for part of the gas. And my friend who's coming to pick me up is going to do the driving because he has a vehicle. Once I have that computer, I'll be able to make videos from that computer, and it'll be a lot easier to do this. Instead of having to record the sounds on one computer, on the crappy Windows 7 computer that I have, and then use my phone to record 12 minutes worth of that audio, and then wait for 2 hours for it to download, I'll be able to make that phone call, record it with my computer, and download it immediately. That computer is a lot faster than my phone is. Another issue that I have is that I can't plug my telephone in to the computer that's Windows 7 and have it download everything that's on it. I can do that with my Windows 10 computer. Also, I need something to keep my mind off of all of the shit that I've gone through, because it is very traumatic. Minecraft doesn't work. There's two things that really help with that. One, I can play video games that well, actually three things. One, I can play video games that I'm actually interested in. Two, I can build things to make the world a better place, which that should actually be number one, because I like it more than playing video games. And number three, I like getting an education. I learn about psychology. I learn about why people think the way that they do, why they do the things they do, why they react the way that they do. I learn about the way that things are built, what different materials they can be built out of, how the first ones were built. I'm really into airplanes and helicopters. I like jet engines more than I like internal combustion engines. I learn about a lot of different things. For a while there, I had a thing that I called Swords to Plowshares. And that's where I was trying to take military technologies and figure out a way to use them for civilian world. The first thing that I started off with was the AH-1G Cobra. That's the Cobra helicopter. They used them for fire watch. They, where the gun mounts were on the machine, they put an infrared camera and they look for hot spots where there's fires, and that way they can put out a hot spot before it flares back up again. They can save a lot of lives by doing that. So I started looking at military technologies, and for probably 6 months I did that. And by the end of my research, I came to the conclusion that military technology is not suited for the civilian world. The reason for that is because they're too purpose-built. They're too heavy. So I designed a Lego set for adults, so that instead of building a little dinky car out of Legos, what you're actually building is a house, or a greenhouse, or a boat, or a houseboat, or an airplane. But my Lego brick doesn't look a thing like a Lego, and I'm not going to call it a Lego brick. Before I hurt my back, I spent nearly all of my time trying to figure out how to make the world a better place and how to keep homeless people from being victimized. How to keep foster children from being victimized. How to get them somewhere safe where they can recover from the victimization that they've endured. Now, that's all pretty important stuff to me. That's been my life's goal since I was probably 10 or younger. Because by that age, I'd already been beaten up for the color of my skin. I'd already been raped. I'd already been molested. I'd been shipped around from place to place and force-fed medications. Now, this channel wasn't created for Selena. It wasn't created for the missing women of Hardin, Montana. It wasn't made for Black rights or Black Lives Matters. It wasn't made to find missing people. It wasn't made to catch murderers. It was made to change laws, to educate the public, so that those things, although they are never going to stop happening, people will pay attention enough that we can reduce the chances of those things happening. We can increase the chances of finding these missing people. Whether they're native, black, white, immigrant, it doesn't matter. What matters is finding them. What matters is keeping us safe. And I'm doing that the only way I know how. That's not entirely true. There are other ways that I definitely tried, but with everything taken away from me, I don't have the tools or abilities to do those things. If it's fine to do these things to me, then it is fine for me to do these things back. And those of you who say 2 wrongs don't make a right, sorry, but that doesn't apply in this situation. This is one of them fight fire with fire situations. The only difference is I'm not willing to assault people. And I want you to keep in mind, it is always okay to defend yourself. I don't care who it is that assaults you, it is always okay for you to defend yourself. If your dad is trying to rape you, it is okay for you to defend yourself. If a police officer is trying to beat you down, it is always okay to defend yourself. If nurses are trying to inject you with drugs, it is always okay to defend yourself. The guy that I'm staying with now, we had to talk about medications. And medications do the same thing to him. He was talking about mood stabilizers and how they make him violent. Imagine that. Of course, if you read the warning label on them, violence is one of the warnings. It is one of the side effects. The medications that are supposed to make you not suicidal, one of the side effects is suicide. If you take these drugs, you might kill yourself. For me, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult for me to kill myself. Now, there have been occasions where I tried, and there's a reason for that. Back in January of 2018, right after Natalie died, I tried to kill myself because the way that Miss Shelley had painted it, and Officer Michael Beard in Haxton, Colorado, and Miss Candace Bondurant had painted their pictures. Well, Miss Shelley was not safe. Candace and her children were not safe. And Officer Michael Beard, just like all of the other officers, refused to take a report from me, but had no problems going and harassing Candace Bondurant. Most of these people aren't bad people, they just don't understand. Candace went out of her way to do the most evil thing that she possibly could have done at that point in time. That was not my choice. But the long-lasting effects of her decision, I still have to deal with today. By the way, I don't feel bad about any of the names that I called her. I don't feel bad about any of the things that I typed to her. None of them. And do you know why? Because Candace Bondurant, while I was at her place, the situation wasn't the way that she was trying to paint it. She made a conscious decision to do that. She made a conscious decision to omit evidence, to omit parts of the conversation, because those parts of the conversation would have shown that she was being a piece of shit over an officer that should have taken a report. So here's the thing, folks. I'm lucky. I know somebody who's willing to drive, let me see what that would be. It's like 2.5 hours from Denver to here. And then it's, I want to say 3 hours, 3.5 hours from here to Rawlins. No, it'd be like 4 hours from here to Rawlins. So it's like right around 7 hours each way. He's going to be driving 14 hours in a single day, plus sitting through court with me. Of course, this is one of the people who's a witness to a bit of the stuff that's been going on. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to record that. The problem is I won't have a place to download it while we're on the road. My phone doesn't have enough gigabytes of data to download maybe 2 videos, 2 12-minute videos at most. Unless he shows up early enough that it's still dark. And he probably will, because we have to be at court by 9 a.m. The thing is, most of the evidence that I talk about is already on my YouTube. A lot of it anyway. There's a lot of evidence that is not on my YouTube, and that's just because there is such a large fucking quantity of it. Like, oh my God. Now, the evidence that was on those telephones that were stolen is gone forever. Not all of it, though. I took screenshots until my phone was full and couldn't take any more screenshots on almost every one of those phones. There was one of them that I had to keep on erasing stuff on it so that I could download more important stuff. But because it was attached to my account with the Net 10 computers, I found out that the recordings are still on there. Also, I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of my pictures on that computer, and guess what I found? I found all of the evidence going all the way back to the beginning, including things that people complained about and they got destroyed. One of the things that got destroyed is the reasons that I was getting Facebook bans. Other people's threats. I reposted those threats for the whole world to see, and I ended up on 30-day Facebook bans. And then I made a video about 2 women, and that video was about situations that happened. One of them was when my sister wouldn't stop beating the fuck out of her dog, so I threw her over the back of her chair onto an air mattress, started screaming at her. Another situation was when Nicole Jarrell stabbed me in the butthole with a carrot. And my first reaction was to spin around real quick. And I accidentally smacked her in the face. Now, although she knew it was an accident and understood it, that was the end for me. We almost dated. She later became my therapist, by the way. Now, the reason that it was over at that point is because, I mean, seriously, how can I look a woman in the face that I smacked? It doesn't matter that it was an accident. What matters is that it happened. And I know there's a lot of guys out there who are going to be like, oh, dude, it's totally justified. She fucking stabbed you in the butthole with a carrot. She tried to rape you with a carrot. And yeah, that's pretty close to true. But the fact is, the way that it feels to me, every time I see her, I have that going through my head. Like, fuck, you know, I smacked her in the face. And you know what the fucked up part is? I spun around, she was probably inches from me. You know, all I knew is I just got stabbed in the butt and I spin around real quick. And I saw her face, and I had, one of my hand was almost to her face, and I was able to pull it away just in time not to smack her. And I remember that feeling of, oh yes, I totally missed her. But the other hand was also still in motion, and it hit her. And it's not like I was punching her or slapping her or anything like that. It's just a matter of the fact that she was so close that as I spun around, it was just right there. But it feels like shit. Whether it's on accident or not, it feels like shit. Now, one of the things that has pissed me off is that all this shit happened last summer. They stole my computer last summer. So, when I went to California, that was after Rawlins, Wyoming. And then I traveled from California to Bristol, Virginia. And then I went from Bristol, Virginia to Rapid City, South Dakota. And I went from Rapid City, South Dakota to here. All on buses, every bit of it. And all of those buses were paid by other people. They were either paid by taxpayers or paid by friends of mine. And that's what sucks the most, is that all of the taxpayer dollars that were wasted should not have been wasted. They could have easily given me my disability money and allowed me to use it. Officer Waylon Lolatai, instead of him assaulting me because they assumed my guilt and wanted to be the ones to catch the big Billy badass serial killer Sean Schwartz motherfucker, well, yeah, then it turned out, obviously, I didn't kill Natalie. Obviously, I didn't kill Natalie. The dude who did it is sitting in prison for it right now. But those officers just wouldn't let it go. When I tried to plead guilty to a crime I actually committed, the judge would not accept my guilty plea because I wanted my computer back. And now guess what? I talked to Officer Daria last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and they still have my computer, and they're going to release it to me. They never should have taken it to begin with. The important thing about that computer was that it didn't go with my vehicle. Because if it had gone with my vehicle, I wouldn't have been able to get it back. And all of that evidence would have been lost. As it was, I got lucky, and the tow truck driver, when I went back to check out my vehicle, and I knew that I didn't have the money to get it out, and I already had a bus ticket because they weren't willing to let me out of the hospital unless I had a bus ticket to somewhere, and they weren't willing to let me stay in the hospital. I had to go somewhere. So I had a very short amount of time to find a place to go. But I was able to get to my vehicle, which wasn't mine anymore, and I was able to get the evidence in it that shows that Andrew Witcher molested his stepdaughter. It also shows that he was on meth by his wife's own admission, and that she was on cocaine by her own admission. And also that she was trying to get rid of Andrew because she was trying to hook up with somebody who would actually treat her decent. It also shows that Andrew Witcher forced himself upon his wife. Yeah, whether you're married or not, that's still rape. So, because it's dark, this video is 36 minutes long already. Now, if it was in color, and it was during the day, and it was recording video, I would have gotten about 12 minutes out of it. I know where I'm lucky. Now, I'd like to make videos about all these people I'm pissed off at, because at the very beginning of this channel I was speaking their praises, and although most of them didn't keep their word, I want to speak their praises again. I want to tell you all of the good things that these people did. I want to tell you about all the good things that Lana and Amanda did, and the good things that Miss Jerry did, the good things that Josh Hughes did, the good things that Natalie and Alicia did, the good things that Maddie did, the good things that Mandy Hughes did and Alyssa Rainwater did. I'll also tell you how the police put roadblocks in the way of every single bit of it. I want to tell you how wonderful Miss Peaches is, and how wonderful Tabitha Michelle Cook is. Most of these people are not bad people. They're people that just didn't understand. I started this channel because of what happened to me, and because of what happened to Natalie. And because Natalie's predators, her very own family, got away with it, while I took the punishment for things that they actually did. Thing is, that Net 10 computer, or that Windows 10 computer, well, it's got a lot of evidence on it, because the evidence on the computer that I have now, it's so old, I stopped using it when I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I believe that was last March or April that I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's also witnesses to all of this. The employees at Starbucks in Tacoma, they're witnesses to all of the stuff of mine that got stolen. Some of the homeless people are up there, are witnesses to the stuff that got stolen. And that's important to note. I've just needed a place where I can sit down with internet access and telephone access and be able to call these people. For 7 months, I listened to people tell me they were going to help me, they were going to help me, they were going to help me. And as the deadlines for the statute of limitations came up and started to expire, that's when I started recording people. The people who kept claiming that they were going to come forward and just never did. There was always an excuse. And I say excuse because if it was a valid reason, they would have no problems telling the police. Hey, I wasn't able to do it because my kid was sick. I wasn't able to do it because my daughter got MRSA. I wasn't able to do it because I got cancer. I wasn't able to do it because I had to go to a funeral. But because they wanted to hide those things, that tells me chances are pretty good that they were just bullshitting me. Now, there are people who questionably were wronged by me. And there are people who definitely got wronged because they stepped into the situation at the wrong time. Mandy Hughes and her daughter Alyssa Rainwater did a fucking shit ton for me. And I do think they personally got hosed. But also, you got to look at who they're afraid of. They're pissed off at me because they think I put their children at risk, or put them at risk, by Ted Bollinger. And that's actually true. But also because they didn't come forward, not Alyssa, mind you. Alyssa didn't come into the situation until after I was already incarcerated. Before that, I knew of her. I knew that she was a 911 operator in Broomfield the night that Natalie disappeared. But the fact is, the truth needs to be shown. If the police won't take a look at it, well, I'll post it up on Facebook and YouTube. If that's the only way to do it, by all means, that's the way I'll do it. I've tried everything else. I tried going to the police and talking to them nicely. I tried calling 911 repeatedly. I tried the FBI. I tried going in with Molly Smith, and that was the most effective way to do it. Although they didn't investigate, they did sit down and look at it. That one situation. Fact is, I'm going to be victimized for the rest of my life. Those of you who got to see all the people heckling me and harassing me over Natalie Bollinger, she's dead, okay? And I'm not the one who killed her. I was abused for an entire year before she died over her slander. Natalie Bollinger's slander, Alicia Bollinger's slander. And after she disappeared, her family all got in on it real fucking heavy. You can see that with Rose M. Kelly posting on the missing persons videos for Shauna Sinclair's daughter, Mandy Singer's son, and Natalie Bollinger. Nobody should have to go through the things that I've gone through. Now, if it hadn't been for false charges and being illegally prevented from going to court in Scotts Bluff, I would have been able to keep my Jeep. I wouldn't have had any money to drive it anywhere. I mean, Rawlins, Nebraska is in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. But at least I would have had it. And I would have had the things inside of it. And there's a lot of evidence that was still in that vehicle when I had to leave it. Because there was no way in hell I was going to be able to carry all of it.